Hello all, here at OS and VTXReviews.com. In this video, we're hoping to shed some light on Windows 8.1, the operating system, its pros, its cons, and ultimately how it stacks up with the more antiquated Windows operating system, such as Windows XP or perhaps Windows 7 Home Premium. The first thing I will say is Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 is more customized for touch. So if you have a tablet in a hybrid, a convertible, or even ultra portable with touch, it's without a doubt much better than previous operating systems, even though Windows Vista was the first OS from Windows that officially supported touch, much better than Windows XP Touch Edition. I have to say that Windows 8 and the Metro UI is a lot better for general touch usage. If you have a capacitive touchscreen swiping through the Metro UI, the tiles, multitasking, multi-touching, and pinching and zooming, and everything is a lot more mobile-like. So it's very similar to using something like an Android platform or an iOS device in that sense. However, on a traditional laptop or on most laptops without touch enabled, the performance and aspects are really not that much different from Windows 7. In fact, it can actually get a little bit more confusing than those previous operating systems, as it takes more of a learning curve. When I set a Windows 8.1 computer in front of my grandparents, who for 20 years have been, working on laptops and computers, and for the past 5-6 years, they've actually been using Windows Vista, Windows 7. They were intrinsically confused because there were so much more layers attributed to the platform, in the sense that if they accidentally swipe somewhere on the touchpad, they would say, "Oh, things are magically appearing on the screen," and they would just not understand. Like they would swipe through applications and they would get lost and say, "I can't exit out of these applications. There's no more X button on the very top," and they would be very confused. In that sense, Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 is much more attributed to younger audiences and people with a vigor, I guess, to learn, because it's just something that's more easier, I guess, to learn for younger people because they have the energy to do so. But for older people, it's definitely, a lot more bizarre and erratic, especially if you don't have touch enabled on your computer. So first of all, here are a few gestures I guess that you need to know. Swiping on your touchpad very quickly from the right to the left will bring up a universal search bar. This is actually where all your applications will be contained. So even though right now it looks like a traditional splash screen you might see on a Windows 7 or even Windows Vista or XP computer, looking to the bottom left hand corner, instead of seeing a Windows icon we can press on to see all our different programs and then search our programs very quickly, we have to swipe from the right to the left to get to this bar over here so that we can actually search, and pressing on search is where we can get all our applications, settings, and everything done. So it's a extra step that some people might not really appreciate from previous versions of Windows, but everything is here as long as you swipe over here and start searching it up correspondingly. Now, again, overall, I would say the aesthetic of the main screen here is still about the same. We have our applications that you can create shortcuts for. Gone is the ability to add widgets like on Windows 7, so you can't add any widgets. Not that those really help people too much. You can add some sticky notes, but those are pretty much it. Down below here, we still have our time and date information and our battery information on the right-hand corner, which is still pretty essential and nice to see. But again, all your applications and your menus and settings are going to be done on the main Metro UI. Speaking of, if you press the Windows key instead of, again, opening up the right-hand taskbar, you're going to have access to the Metro UI, which is a pretty overwhelming experience for, again, first-time users, I suppose. It's, again, very modern-looking and very much something that you might find on a mobile platform. And one of the confusing aspects of Windows 8 and 8.1 is the fact that you have essentially two versions of most popular programs. Like if I wanted to click on Internet Explorer, I could launch the one like over here in the regular operating system, or the regular Internet Explorer. But if I wanted to turn the mobile app also on, I could actually launch the Internet Explorer directly in the mobile view. And essentially that's a more stripped down version of Internet Explorer with the same functionality, but it's more optimized for touch even more. And so same thing goes for calendar and photos. Some of those are going to directly launch and be opened in the Metro UI and in this styling, where everything is very boxy, icons are a lot larger, things are more colorful, and it's more aesthetically pleasing. So this is the mobile version of an app, and you can also have a full version of an app in the desktop mode. So you have kind of two versions, and you have to keep in mind that sometimes you're going to be toggling back and forth between the two instead of having just one universal application to go with. Otherwise, again, you have your applications over here natively I would say that, you still have access to all your different programs, including Microsoft Office, your security applications, your web browsers, your iTunes accounts, your Skype, and the such. Some things that are new is that the Metro UI has built in a few more mobile-centric and social media-centric apps compared to previous versions. For example, unless your manufacturer has installed Skype, you probably would not find Skype on a Windows 7 laptop or a Windows XP laptop produced by HP. But if on Windows 8, it's something that maybe Microsoft would have installed, or maybe the manufacturer created a package that's already on here. In this case, we see that Toshiba has already installed applications on my computer, even though I didn't install them. For example, Twitter, Skype, Vimo, Norton Security, Netflix, and Amazon, and eBay, and Hulu Plus are all applications that are natively on there, and they will launch in the kind of mobile site version. They launch pretty well as well. As you can see, this is the mobile version of Hulu Plus. So again, in that sense, it's a lot more playful, a lot more joyful, very much similar to Android. So if you do have an Android tablet or an iPhone or something, I think that it's something that you're going to find to be easier because you can play around with it a little bit more and it's more familiar. Again, there isn't a, kind of a exit key on the Metro UI version of things. So you can't just click to the top right-hand corner and just exit out of it. Instead, to get out of it, what you would typically do is just press on the Windows key again, just to get back to the Metro UI. And if you want to get back onto the main desktop, you just press on the desktop icon below. But those applications are still all currently open, the ones we tapped on, so you can actually cycle and multitask between the different icons by now going to the trackpad and swiping from the left to the right very quickly, and we can swipe back and forth between our different open applications in a cycle, which is pretty easy to use. Now, most other gestures are still fairly consistent from Windows 7 and below. You can still pinch and zoom by doing the pinch to zoom gesture in the web browser. That will zoom in and zoom out correspondingly. You can still use 2 fingers to scroll up and down in web browsing and file managing, just like before. Those are still as easy to use as in previous versions of Windows. When it really gets down to it, I would say that, again, the Metro part is the biggest change, whether for good or for bad. I would say that it adds a lot more flair to it. It makes Windows more of a compelling 21st century OS, but at the same time, it leaves, I guess, a more simplistic shell or simplistic version of Windows behind that perhaps a lot of older users and previous fans of Windows might not necessarily love unless they're using a touchscreen laptop. And when it comes down to it, I would say that, again, if you do have a non-touchscreen laptop, perhaps, keeping Windows 7 isn't that bad of an idea. But if you do have a touchscreen laptop, Windows 8 is a must. Otherwise, it takes a bit of a learning curve. If you are up for that challenge, that's fantastic. But for, people who have been using Windows XP perhaps for 10 years now, suddenly seeing this is a bit of a giant leap, I would say, because of the fact that you don't have as consistent of a app drawer. You also don't have a very consistent part where you can just click to the right to exit out of every application. That is no longer true. So it definitely takes, again, more tricks, and you do have to read more closely the instruction manual to learn everything. It's more playful, it's more joyful, and it is more mobile and competitive with the likes of something like Android. So overall, I would say, yeah, personally, I would upgrade because it is, again, I guess, more efficient. It's faster than before. It doesn't take as much CPU to run. It's more efficient, and battery life is a lot more optimized, which I am a big fan of. And I do like the whole joyful appearance, and I like the whole Metro UI and how things are live, and it's joyful, so it's not as antiquated as Windows was before. But at the same time, again, it does take a bit of a leap. So if you aren't ready for it, then by all means keep the current operating system that you are using on Windows, because you won't be missing out on, I guess, the world, I would say, especially if you already have an Android tablet or again, iOS device in the first place. Anyways, just a pretty in-depth look at the Windows 8.1 and how it really stacks up with previous versions of Windows, and hopefully that this video has cleared up your mind on whether or not you should perhaps look into upgrading or keeping your current version on your PC or your computer or laptop. So thanks for watching here at osvtxreviews.com and also our brother site at OS Tech News.